Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 18 of Immortal X-Men, written by Kieran Gillen. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. Now, since the mass mutant exile, Xavier has been holding a lone vigil on Krakoa with the help of Sinister's consciousness. Now Sinister's consciousness has wormed its way into Xavier's mind. Now it's too weak to take control while Xavier's awake, but when he sleeps, it is free to wreak havoc as it wish. However, Sinister is dependent on Xavier for his continued survival and to uncover the mystery of which one of Sinister's clones has successfully achieved Dominion status. Meanwhile, Exodus, Hope and Destiny remain trapped with a larger group of mutant refugees in the White Hot Room, which is the nexus between all Phoenix hosts and the mutant afterlife. While Exodus and Hope battled their way through the White Hot Room's vicious enemy constructs to rescue an adult Jean Grey, Mother Righteous used their absence to attack Destiny, whose mutant talent for precognition threatened to reveal her carefully guarded secrets and nefarious plans. Plans she put into motion with the return of Exodus and Hope by attacking the mutant refugees and using the ensuing chaos to kidnap the adult Jean. So with that said, this issue opens up with Mother Righteousness walking a mentally broken Jean Grey on a leash in the White Hot Room. Now the purpose for her doing this is because she discovered how to make it to Dominion Hood, and the method she is using to make it there is through the Phoenix Force. Now, in order to pull this off, Mother Righteousness had to manipulate every single event leading up to this moment, which includes the Hellfire Gala, as well as the mutants arriving in the White Hot Room, all in service of becoming the Dominion Hood. So with that out there, we skip back over to the Atlantic Krakoa in the White Hot Room with Exodus and all the other mutants fighting in the island. Now the reason why this is going on, if you don't remember, is because the Mother was able to cash in most of the favors that were given to her by the mutants earlier in the story. She was able to buy low and cash out high, and use said favors to manipulate the island to facilitate her escape. And just to make sure her plan goes off without a hitch, she also took the opportunity to stab Destiny in order to prevent her from spilling what she knows. So with Destiny knocking on death's door, we see Elixir running up to save the day. And with the help of his mutant abilities, he was able to do just that and bring her back to life. So with Destiny coming to, she immediately blurts out that they are in the White Hot Room and asks about the Mother's whereabouts. Now, Hope discloses that they discovered a little while ago from Jean Grey that they were indeed in the White Hot Room. But as for the Mother, Exodus states that she is mysteriously missing. So with no time to waste, Destiny stumbles to her feet and says they have to act quickly, for they still have a chance to stop the Mother from accomplishing her goals. But unfortunately, she would have to explain her plan along the way. But in a sarcastic tone, Exodus asked her, without her powers, what use can she really be? In which Destiny replied by saying, she is the only person who could do anything against the Mother. Now as the reader, we know this is only because Destiny never thanked the Mother. So, while all that is going on, we transition back to the Mother Righteousness explaining her mutabilities. Now she goes on to say with all the favors she accumulated, she has enough power to make every single mutant sneeze if she wanted to. But why spread the power thin if she can use it all in one big grand gesture? Because a lot of tiny things do add up. And in the early stages of her plan, she used about half of her favors to play with the mutants' connection to the gates when they were forced to walk through them by Orcus. And she also had to hack Orcus's hacking, but that was a story for another time. So when all the mutants went through the gate, she made sure they all went to the place where they were all kind of connected to, the White Hot Room. So with that accomplished, she had to move on to the next phase of her plan, and that was finding a way for her to join them in the White Hot Room. And yet again, it required her to take a big chunk of those thank yous in order to steal a tiny fraction of each of the mutant gifts in order to make a homunculus version of herself that could pass as a mutant. So with the homunculus in place, the Mother is able to manipulate and play puppet master from afar. So while all that is going on, we transition over to Charles making his way to Muir Island. Now the reason why he is heading there is because Sinister informed him that that was where he was keeping his Moira engine. But when they get to the top, Charles realized that the facility was guarded by Orcus's special forces, which meant little to nothing to him, because with his mutant abilities, he was able to whisper sweet nothings to them and cloak them telepathically, which allowed them to walk by them without them being the wiser. Now these Orcus soldiers were stationed here for the longest time, waiting and watching for someone to show up. Now the reason why Charles is here is so they can find some information or techniques that can help them remember the sins of Sinister's timeline among the rubble. Now, when it comes to this timeline, Sinister doesn't remember much, except for what Mother Righteousness told him as well as the moment he failed to reach Dominionhood. But all that could be fixed if he is able to find his hidden backups. Because through those backups, Sinister should have everything he needs to find out who reached Dominion first, which is vital in stopping their ascension. Now, while they are busy doing that, we transition back to Mother Righteousness in the white-hot room, continuing along her path. And while she's walking, she was thinking about how Sinister took his shot by accident, by filling the universe with clones of himself and ultimately catching it on fire. All the kissing, all the breeding, all the cloning, all the science, and all the churning away for 1,000 years is too exhausting for Mother Righteousness. Because to her, magic is about the easy way. Now, despite it being easy, doesn't mean it is the strongest. Because if magic was so strong, the United States government would have an army of magicians, not nukes. But see, there is still one other thing that even surpasses that, and that is the ultimate cheat code, mutants. And if it was up to her, she would just put her own little twist on Arthur C. Clarke, because any sufficiently advanced mutation is indistinguishable from magic. Now on the very next page, Destiny, Hope, and Exodus arrive on the scene, and when they get there, Destiny states that she couldn't talk about the Dominion or anything to do with it while in the main timeline. Because before, Destiny feared that the Dominion would manipulate or attempt to stop her from revealing what she knows. But now, since they are not in the main timeline, but instead in the white-hot room, outside of time and space, she is free to say what she wants. And she starts by saying, they need to stop Mother Righteousness because she has no idea what she is up against. So with that communicated, we transition back over to Sinister and Charles working in the lab. And while they are there, they were having a conversation about what they can actually do against the Dominion, until Sinister changes the topic to the reverse. Sinister asks what can the Dominion do against them? Because based on what they know, the Dominion lives outside of time and space. And that in itself has great power but also significant limitations. It relied heavily on bringing itself into existence, which is a causality it can't change. And because it is out of time, it maybe would survive, but most likely it wouldn't take that risk. However, Sinister was pretty sure that it could potentially alter things behind the scenes if it wanted to, like it can change meanings as well as reveal truths. So because of that, they should assume that all reality is a minefield, in ways they cannot quite comprehend. And at any given time, the Dominion can be watching them. But that is when Charles brings up the fact that Sinister is located within his head, and because of that, whenever the Dominion is watching them, most likely all it sees is Charles by himself tinkering away. So with that established, Charles asks, what makes Sinister believe that the Dominion hasn't come into its full power? In which Sinister responds by saying if it has come into its full power, then you wouldn't still be breathing. Because once it becomes intuitive for power, it will have no reason to worry about casualties. So once Charles is able to get the system up and running, they proceed to go through the databases. Now they assume the one who has reached the Dominionhood would not have a record on file, which ultimately lead them to believe that both Stasis and Orbis have failed to reach the ultimate goal, because in said database hold files of both of their attempts. So with two options taken off the table, we jump back over to Mother Righteousness in the white-hot room. Then, while there, we learned that Mother Righteousness' first attempt to ascend to Dominionhood relied on her taking control over Legion. But as we all saw in the Sons of X, that went terribly wrong, for Legion was too powerful for her to control. Because in the end he chose to disappear and leave her behind. So with that option close to her, she eventually learned that Dr. Stasis was going to attempt to kill Jean. And because of the Empire of the Red Diamond future, she ended up learning a lot about Jean Grey, and one of the things she learned about her was that she prodded inside a phoenix egg for the best part of 1,000 years. Which made Jean's connection to the white-hot room the same as the Phoenix connection to the white-hot room. So anytime Jean dies, she undergoes the same process as the Phoenix and ends up there, out of time, in the white-hot room. Because due to their closeness, Jean is of the Phoenix in a real and unbreakable way. So in a way, she guides it and it guides her in a circle without beginning or end. So with that massive amount of power at the end of her fingertips, Mother Righteousness chose to use Jean Grey as her key to Dominionhood. So when we hop back over to Charles and Sinister, we see Charles letting Sinister know that it is clearly labeled Stasis and Orbis. Which means neither alongside a third person doesn't reach Dominionhood. So in total, there have been 3 domain attempts. The first was Sinister in the Empire of the Red Diamond, the second was Orbis with the Mysterium Crystal Construct, and finally was Stasis when he did something terrible to the Sun. But there was no recorded 4th attempt. But despite that, there is a record of a 4th Sinister. And on this page, Charles finally discovers Mother Righteousness' secret identity as a Sinister. And on a side note, they explain that Charles never found it weird or worried about why she was wearing a mask. And that's when Sinister lets Charles know the reason why it never crossed his mind was because Mother Righteousness must be using story magic. But anyway, Charles and Sinister come to a consensus that they must stop her before she achieves dominion. So with that established, we jump over the Hope and Exodus, as well as Destiny arriving on the scene. But by the time they get there, they are already too late, because Mother Righteousness is already using up the remainder of her favors in order to start the process to become a Dominion hood. So with everything going belly up, Destiny, Hope, and Exodus proceeds to charge directly towards the Mother. But the Mother was not about to let anyone interrupt her opportunity, because as they charged her, she proceeded to summon several creatures in order to slow them down, but as you could see they put little to no effort against Hope and Exodus' force. But what the creature was able to do was slow down the mutants just enough for Mother Righteousness to drive her dagger directly into Jean Grey's chest, spilling her blood across the floor. And with the remainder of her time, she proceeded to write a message along the ground, saying once upon a time, there was a simple girl from Essex and eventually she became a Dominion. She lived happily ever after. So, with the blood of the Phoenix infused with her storybook magic, she was able to do the deed. She was able to start her ascending process to the higher level. And on her way up, she started to believe she was the breath before creation in the relief after. But unfortunately she was wrong, because below her, she witnessed the ground become a page in a book. And just like a page, it started to turn, and on the other side was a message written in fire. A message went as follows: however, his mistress of stories should have known there is always a twist, so how about you look behind yourself? And at that moment, the Mother exploded and was thrown out of Dominion Hood. So with the Mother returning back to the White Hot Room, she sat there completely pissed off about the current turns of events because she wasn't the one to achieve the ultimate goal. So as a final forget you, Destiny walks up to Mother Righteousness and kicks her directly in the face, for Destiny foreseeing this coming, and she tried to warn her about the Dominion that already existed. Because Mother Righteousness' deeds have doomed them all. Now, following that, we transition to the old Essex house. To the house where the Dominion was created, to the house where the Dominion once lived. And while there we get a dialogue from the Dominion himself. And it went as follows. Once upon a time, we learned that stories are pathetic. Stories are just something that can be eaten by an AI to make it more powerful. The only good story is a story that has been entirely and totally consumed and explored. But still, this is history, his story, mine story. So with that said, once a dying man had a problem, how could he defeat the machine brains? So after years of hard work, he conceived a plan and crafted 4 variations of himself and sent them into the world to take what was there. Now he designed it where each would explore a route to become what the machine strove for. The variations were leeches, colonizing and appropriating all of creation and life's data. And when they succeeded, a failsafe would emerge and all they had done was gathered and fed into a central model. Because there's nothing that can defeat a machine brain, with an exception of a more stronger apex machine brain. So, in a very last page we get a picture of a crown with a small statement, written beneath it saying, "I was Nathaniel Essex. I am long dead. I am a ghost in a machine. You may call me an enigma. And you were told you had a new god. And that was true, for I am him. And I can see all of you, and every part of you will become part of me." And with that said, this final issue of Immortal X-Men comes to an end with a bang. I have to say this was an extremely good comic book line, and I'm pretty sad to see it come to an end. I love the way each chapter gave us insight into each council member as it went along, as well as its bombshell conclusion. Because up to this point many people correctly guessed that there was a 5th Sinister, but the way they revealed it was just an expert way of bringing it full circle. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.